Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. We have some attendees in the Zoom meeting. Thank you, Eric. Thanks for joining. Um, Also, this session is live right now on both YouTube and LinkedIn. So it's the first time I'm doing this. Okay, I'm glad I make it work. A month ago, I did a pre-launch meet. It went live on both channels. However, it didn't really connect to the LinkedIn pre-scheduled event. So sorry about that if you ever register for that. I find it's ironic that the number one professional social media platform, they don't have a built-in streaming function. Okay, they have to rely on third party, and it's you have to jump through hoops to get set up. I did hours of research, and then I decided, okay, I'll just use Zoom. Okay. Um, Okay, thanks, Michael, for joining. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for joining. I think people are beginning to gathering. Uh, what I do today is I will do a opening for about 6-7 minutes, and I have a team of honorable guests. We'll first start with Rich. Hi, Eric. Hi. Morning. And it's a celebration of the my book launch, right? So many of you already know. So this is the first edition, right? So and now I have the second edition. So the uh, Okay, you have to put it in the right angle to show the cover. So the print version is supposed to go live today on Amazon, but the last time I checked this morning, it's still not there yet because the Amazon takes 1 to 3 days to approve the process. Uh, they are checking some how much you write in AI. I believe they are adding that step right now. So if not today, so probably tomorrow on Monday. So be sure to check that, or I will let you know through my channels. Um, Again, I really want to use this opportunity to get everybody together. So as I will talk through my journey in consumer credit, I had the opportunity to meet many great people, right? So including the guests here. Today, I want to invite them to share their stories, journeys, and insights. I think it's interesting to go into their world, right? So and they will go into not only consumer credit but also much beyond. So how we can navigate this evolving world together. So okay, great. I think I'll just use probably 5 minutes to quickly go over my background. So you probably know some pieces already. Um, I was born in China. Okay, so my parents, they are both university professors. They are in the they call the normal university. Basically, the university uh, trains teachers for all the high school and middle school. So my parents, they graduated from the Beijing Normal University. So graduate from there, they go to the regional normal universities. And in the regional normal universities, all the graduates, they go to the high school and the middle school as teachers. So when I was growing up, so you asked me what profession I want to choose. So teacher is the last thing on my list. Okay, because I just grew up in that environment. I think maybe they are too siloed, right? So they don't get into the real world. I want something different. And then in the late 90s, mid 90s, I started my college. So I accidentally chose the finance and the banking. So I didn't know what's the finance and banking, but I did ask. My dad asked for some context. They said it's a growing field in demand in China, right? So because the banks just began their commercialization journey in the 90s, they need to learn how to independent land. And My first internship in the China Construction Bank, so in the credit card department. At that time, my job was to use Excel to track the merchants they have. So at that time, the merchants still they have the POS terminal from each bank. The first thing they ask you as a customer is which bank has credit debit card you want to use. They don't have a real credit card, although it's Visa, Mastercard branded. So they have to get the POS terminal for your bank out for you to swipe the card. It's a very different world. So I had the opportunity to come to Canada to study my Master of Economics. Really was thrilled about that journey. But uh, in the first week, I realized that I could only at least understand 5% of what the professor they were saying. Okay. One thing is that there are many terminologies I was not familiar with, and also the professors also they had strong accents. But that's not a huge issue. I guess it's just me. That's such a hurdle I need to climb. So what really helped is I found that I got together with a small group of people. Hi, Naranjan. Thanks for joining. So got together with a small group of people and really crack at the content, right? So after the class, so in the library, in the lab, day in day out, I found that exercise very beneficial, not only for me to finish the program, but also to locate my first job, right? It was at a time there's no LinkedIn, so I did not know what's the word of networking. I had no idea. So, but luckily I started my career at Hudson's Bay Company, private label credit card company. So I did not know all the terms, right? Like what's the credit score, billing cycle, roll rate, right? So thank you for my managers at the time, Barack Popero and Mark Christensen. So they patiently taught everything from the very beginning, right? So fast forward, I move on in the industry for different banks, non-banks in the Canada, US. Then as you progress through your career, you begin to hear some similar questions, right? So how does the line increase work, right? So how does the score performance? How do you evaluate that? So I realized that in the after 2008 great financial crisis, right? So there is the new generation. They joined the industry. Also, there was a demand of all the auditing, so model vetting team. So there's a new blood coming in. Also through the reorg, so of the banks, I realized that not in all places, but in many teams, the mentoring function of managers are removed, right? It's more project based. So that means as individuals, you have to somehow, you are on your own, trying to figure out what you need to learn. Okay, so I think since that need also at time of the pandemic, I had some time. So I put in my time to write the first edition of Unsecured Lending Risk Management. And I was glad that hear the feedback from different people over time, from really literally different continents, so all over the world. It seems that there's a genuine appreciation for many people in the community. I think this is really encouraging to me to continue to publish contents in various forms, and also the most recent work in the second edition. So thank you so much for all your encouragement, support along the way. Today I have a suite of distinguished guests. They are also important people along my journey supporting me. So today I will ask them to go through each of their journey as well. Okay. Great. So first we'll start with Mr. Rich Altman. Okay.
Hey Frank, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Eric, I think I will just hide your camera for a moment for now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Hey, Rich. Okay. So Rich is the biggest advocate of my book. Thank you for that.
You're
So
welcome.
Rich is the managing director of Business Development Group, former EVP Business Development at the JDS Link. And most recently, Rich also approached me about the idea for having a question bank. So for the book, maybe Rich, you can start by introducing what's the idea behind that exercise.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. So when I worked for GDS and I learned about your book and I had the pleasure of having you, of course, on a podcast, one of my podcasts, The Lending Link. But I was so taken by the detail and how the book covered the full credit life cycle that we actually implemented a policy at work that everybody at our company had to read the book. So we bought, I don't know, 200 copies of it, and you're welcome, and
Thank
distributed
you.
it to our employees. And when you do that, you realize at the end of the day that people can say I read the book, but you really have no way to know that they actually read the book. So one of the things that I had approached Frank about was developing a quiz that we could put with each chapter of the book, as well as a final exam, with the ultimate goal of putting that on an online type of testing tool. So myself and some other people have been working with Frank to develop that. We're waiting now for the second edition to come out so we can make sure it's the most current. But the goal ultimately is to be able to make this quiz and final exam available to anyone who wants to buy the book. And once again, if you're sharing it with any of your employees or teammates, and you want to be able to make sure that they actually got through the book, this would be a good way to kind of measure their understanding. But often we find in companies like GDS Link, which sells decisioning and data access and software, that a lot of the people that get hired who have more of a technical background don't really understand the credit environment. So I feel that anyone in that situation really should pick up this book, whether they're asked to or not, because it gives them such a good understanding and easy to understand journey on how credit starts from originations all the way out to collections and recovery. So hoping to get that quiz done in the next couple of weeks, and certainly wish Frank success on the new version.
Oh, thank you, Rich. And the other gentleman who is involved is Matt Komos. I just
Yes.
want to have a shout out to him. Today he's in the mountains of Montana skiing, so good for him. Once he's back, we'll continue to work on the question bank, and I will also have that questions available in my next cohort of course, which I'll introduce later today. So if you pass those exams using the question bank, you get a certificate to testify your accomplishment in the study journey. Okay, great. Uh, yeah, Rich, yes, you did about 40 episodes of the Landing Link podcast. So really high caliber for guests. If anybody wants to have a quick view of the industry, I highly recommend that. But I want to ask you, so how did that podcast idea come up in the first place?
Yeah. So it's actually back in 2022, sometime I think in the second or third quarter. And it was really the idea of our marketing department to put together a podcast series. And they spoke to me about my willingness to be the host of the series. And I think that was a function of the fact that I had given myself an unofficial title at work of being the educator in chief. While I was with GDS, I would probably spend about, I would say, at least an hour and a half every single night on LinkedIn, looking through potential opportunities for our sales team, but also coming across different articles, and that I would push out to the team, articles about AI or machine learning, anything from a legislative standpoint that could affect our industry. So I think I was a natural person to tap my shoulder and say, "Hey, would you like to be the host of this?" The name The Lending Link actually came through a contest that we had at work, and we put it out to all of our employees to come up with different titles. And the Lending Link obviously is the one that won the day. So yeah, as you said, I did about 40 over the time. I think the first one was sometime in October 2022. I retired, semi-retired, people will say, from GDS in September of last year. GDS made the decision not to continue the podcast, the Lending Link. They are doing certain webinars and a newsletter at this point. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of work. I think I did. I had the opportunity last year to attend FinTech Meetup, and we actually did podcasts right there in the booth. I did, I think it was 11 of those in 2 days. So they were shorter versions, but it was a marathon to get 11 of those done over a 48-hour period.
Wow, wow, that's a good exercise, for you to attend a conference and also did your podcast. So yeah, sorry to hear that it did not continue. So after your departure, but I also understand why, because it does take a special caliber to really host such a yeah series. Uh, yeah, maybe in the future you can have your own show.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I have been approached by prior listeners saying that they miss it and asked if I would, maybe do it again. It is a lot of work. I would say I spent about 8 hours for each podcast. Certainly with AI, it would be easy to say, hey, give me 10 questions for banking as a service. I never used AI or chat to help me with my podcast. I felt that doing the research myself would put me in a better position to be more interactive in the podcast and not just be a series of questions. But yeah, so we did podcasts with some of our strategic partners, so data bureaus, software companies, some regulators, investment banking firms. So it was a very nice mix. And I certainly encourage people to either go to the GDS Link website or Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Okay, great. Definitely great resources. Check that out. So after GDS Link, what you are busy with? Can you talk about your current business adventure? Yeah.
Sure, sure. So, yeah. So as I said, I semi-retired from GDS in September of last year after 15 years. I had gone part time in January, but one of the things that I had looked at a couple of years back was, how could I go out on my own and monetize my network? I'm known in the industry as one of the I like to call myself a super networker in the consumer lending and small business lending space. And through that, I've developed a lot of different partnerships, not only in our industry but outside of our industry. So I formed a company called Business Development Group, and really what I've been doing at this point is forming strategic relationships with various third-party vendors. The first one I did was actually a collection agency out of Houston. So I've been fortunate enough to bring them several clients, and as part of my remuneration, as long as that customer continues to make placements and the collection agency collects, well, then I'm getting a percentage of those fees. So I formed about 20 relationships so far. Ultimately, I'm looking to turn this into a member organization. And I would envision that the members would probably primarily be made up of semi-retired people from the industry, where I would give them an opportunity to, leverage their networks. So it could be a two-way revenue share where, maybe one person's brought the vendor relationship to the table, but the other person's been the one to actually open the door with a buyer. So that's the ultimate goal. Currently working on the website, but it's been so far it's been pretty successful, and also having an opportunity to do some management recruiting. I actually just entered into an agreement this morning to help place a chief risk officer with a lender. So once again, really taking advantage of this network that I've built over the last 40 years.
Oh, great, great. And if anyone think you can benefit this fantastic membership organization, please get in touch with Rich.
Thank you
Okay.
for the plug.
Okay. So, Rich, I'm sure a lot of things has happened, right, in the consumer credit industry since you joined. Uh, but is there anything that has not changed through your observations?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fundamentals of credit have not changed, right? People talk about the 4 C's or the 5 C's: character, capacity, capital, collateral, and condition. At the end of the day, what are we all doing? We're evaluating a person's ability to pay. We're hoping that we will be paid back, and we use as much information that's available to us at the time to make the best decision possible. And then, of course, if they don't pay, putting the processes and procedures and policies to effectively try to get that money back. So, even when I would be talking to some of our salespeople, and we'd be kind of strategizing on how to, sell the GDS software. I would constantly say, look, at the end of the day, every lender we talk to is ultimately doing the same thing, right? They're bringing in data, they're making a decision, and hopefully they're going to make the right decision. Certainly, what's been the biggest change is just the pure amount of data that's become available. I mean, at GDS, we had interfaced with about 100 third-party data bureaus in the U.S. and about 200 globally. And of course, now with cash flow solutions through open banking, I think we're really going to that next level of getting access to great information. And of course, with the digital age, how we avoid fraud. I'm sure we're all more and more concerned about the deep fakes and how we're really going to combat that problem. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to the basics. How do I evaluate? And then am I making the best decision with the right information I have at the time?
Yes, definitely. The fundamental definitely are important. So actually, that's what my book it tries to focus is more on the things that tend to stay, right? So regardless of what's the technology change, what's the administration change, right? So of course, we still need to keep our eye right on all the developments, but you really need to have a balance of these two big components, right? Uh, okay, great, great. So besides consumer credit, what else do you do to relax, recharge?
um, well, that's a good question. It's something I asked myself. I told my wife a long time ago that I never had plans to totally retire.
Mm.
I've always looked to keep myself busy. I'm an angel investor in 10 companies. So I sit on the board of a couple of those firms and also, try to be as active as I can in those companies as they'll let me. So trying to help them with new opportunities. I have fortunate enough to have a 95-year-old father who lives only about a mile and a half from me. So I probably spend, 15, 20 hours a week dealing with my dad in some way, shape, or form. My daughter's getting married this September, so we're starting all those plans right now. But I enjoy certainly meeting new people. And I say one of my vices is going out for a good meal with a good friend and getting caught up. And from an exercise standpoint, I really enjoy getting out on the road, road biking. I'm one of those crazy people that's fighting the traffic and the people on their phones texting and not paying attention. Uh, from time to time, last year we were had an opportunity to go to Singapore and Cambodia and Vietnam and Greece. So try to do a little bit of travel from time to time. But yeah, I of course, like most of you, as soon as I get off this call, I'll be doing something called taxes. So I try to get all my taxes done as soon as possible. But I keep myself busy, and but I definitely enjoy keeping up to date with the industry and what all my prior contacts are doing in the space.
Okay, great, great. Yeah, you definitely have a busy arrangement of different aspects of your life. All the best wishes to your families. Uh, yeah, definitely be safe out there on the road when you ride a bike. uh, what's the big plan or any goals for you this year?
So, I've set a financial goal for replacing a certain percent of my salary at GDS. And as I sit here today, I think I'm feeling pretty optimistic that's going to happen. Also, just got introduced to a gentleman that has an idea for a new business in our space. So, helping him right now, just introduced him to some people that might be willing to invest in the company. And if that were to happen, I definitely see myself getting more engaged on a part-time basis for what he wants to do. So, but it's bringing on some members definitely would be something I want to achieve this year. If I could look back, in January 2026 and say, hey, I helped a couple people this year earn some additional income to help pay for their a vacation or part of their kids' college tuition or part of their Medicare, um, which I start in June. So that's I would say my primary goals, and probably take one more nice trip with my wife this year, and a
Oh,
successful wedding for my daughter.
oh, congratulations. Yeah. Great, great. So any question from the audience for Rich by any chance? Okay. Yeah, Rich, I really appreciate your time. From your busy schedule, you come here to share your latest business adventure. Glad to see that you are still keep yourself busy. So with your vast professional network, and it seems there's a fantastic opportunities out there. I hope whoever are listening, watching this today, there could be some new conversations, ideas coming out from the
Great.
future interaction with you.
Well,
Thank
thanks.
you so
Thanks
much,
for the
Rich.
opportunity.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Bye bye.
Great. I think before we introduce our next guest, I will plug in the commercial. Okay. So beside the book, okay. By the way, the book. If you didn't hear that at the beginning, so the electronic version of the book is available at my website, risk-school.thinkific.com. You can find it from my LinkedIn featured section. There's a link. The print version is scheduled to be released on Amazon this weekend. Okay, so it's under the Amazon's review, so could be available anytime soon. So just give a couple of days. The next thing I'm working on is that I'm going to refresh the a masterclass course that I worked in the last few years. I started with a video course. I think some of the attendants, audience, they took that. And I also did a live cohort last Christmas. So then the next version will be I'm exploring the combination of a video format and the live Q&A. So you can find the details again in my Thinkific, the website. If you're watching the live stream, it's at the bottom of the screen. So if you join this this week, so there's a promotion. Okay, so you pay one price, you can get two people. Okay, you can have your buddy to join you. Okay, so it's $600. So but you can have two people. Okay, so with the course with the live support. We also have the question bank from Rich. So if you pass that, you get a certificate of completion. Okay, so great. So next, I have Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Frank.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Eric. So very quick introduction. Eric is my colleague at GE, important part of my career, and he's the endorser for my book. Okay, so if you look at the first edition, so yeah, I'm not sure you can see it. So it's his name and endorsement is very back. Okay, it's also in the second edition. So thank you for your support, Eric, for all over the years. Okay.
Pleasure. And congratulations on new release, new course.
Oh, thank you, Eric. Eric is the co-founder and CEO of vCareer. He's also the head of data analytics program at the vCloud Data. So before that, Eric actually worked in the banking industry for a long time. First at the commercial banking side, then the consumer banking side. So so my first question today for you is that I'm very curious your thought process around the time you made decision to transition yourself from banking to the education training. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Um, so it's a big jump from big corporation to small startup. As Frank just mentioned, Frank and I went way back to our days in G Money. Prior to that, I worked in the banking industry, first in commercial banking and then retail banking in Canada. that's about 25 years of working in retail lending, commercial lending, and specifically risk management. More specifically, predictive modeling. And now we have a fancy term, machine learning. So 2018, I joined this company, We Call Data. It's a small startup doing training, consulting, and staffing, or three. And you can probably find a lot of companies doing training, and also a lot of companies doing recruiting or consulting. But it's very rare for you to see a company doing all three. And so basically, I knew the CEO, Shawa, way back, once again, probably 15 years. So we had a conversation. I always had the passion for teaching, just like yourself, Frank. I think the world is very disconnected. Like your book, I think the school, the knowledge and the industry expertise, there is nowhere else to get. You don't normally see that in school, so that's why it feels a big gap. So working in the banking industry, I think, gave me the expertise that I can share with the students. And there's another reason. Working in big corporations, I felt a lot of things were pretty hard to move forward. In the last several years of my corporate life, I work in infrastructure and information. So some of the big project was really hard to get approved, and really hard to move forward, and really hard to deliver. So moving to the small startup, and I think it seems everything becomes easier. And of course, it comes with the downside. We do everything on the cheap. It's not easy to get enough funding for relatively a bigger project. One more thing, I am a father of two kids. My son is 27 this year, and my daughter is 22. I still remember in Canada we have this take our kids to work day.
Mm.
I took both of them to to Scotiabank. Obviously, at the time they were not impressed, and they were like, oh, "This is what you do that and every day." They thought it's boring. So, I still remember my son saying, "I cannot imagine myself doing this all day." So part of the reason I moved was because I want to stay connected with my two kids. And working in a small startup, I have the opportunity to hang out with much younger people. So I share my industry experience, and I also learn from them about the new trend in technology and stuff like that.
Okay, great, great. Thank you for sharing your thought process around that crucial time. Was there any big surprise, like eye-opening moment after you dived into this entrepreneur world?
Absolutely. Like I said, the startup, the organization is pretty flat, and if we, among the partners and with the employees, if we feel this is a big opportunity, and then we start running, right? So a lot of things we thought difficult, challenging, or impossible to do in big corporations, it becomes so much easier. And it's also very flexible and nimble to use the newest technology to solve problems. And I realized that we can deliver similar type of project much faster at probably 10% of the cost, and it's working a lot better than some of the same project that we did in big corporations.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. efficiency is definitely something you would enjoy, especially if you want to achieve a lot of yeah, high goals. So maybe tell us a little about the growth journey after you join vCloud Data, and what are the main
Sure,
service training you provide?
sure.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we started migrating from B2C. We used to run boot camps, like data uh, analytics, data science, data engineering, machine learning engineering boot camps. So starting 2 years ago, we moved to corporate training and corporate consulting and also staffing. Um, our major market, I also moved from North America to Middle East. So
Mm,
it's pretty interesting to see a lot of investment, going into data and AI in big countries like Saudi Arabia or UAE, and uh, huge support from government. And as we speak, and our CEO, Shawa Zhang, is actually traveling. And so he is attending the events, and he's meeting top government agencies and corporations. We have trained hundreds of um, engineers, analysts, and scientists in both countries. So that's very eye-opening for myself. I think 2025 is probably the year of AI, and we hear a lot of talk about AI, and even traditional corporations like banks are trying to, you know, reap the benefits, and they become very serious about getting more application use cases and to achieve higher productivity or reduce costs, and doing everything to leverage the power of AI.
mm-hmm. Interesting. So over last few years, so even in the financial world, right? So we know there are many fintechs they switch from the B2C model to the B2B model, right? So just there's more revenue opportunities, even though the sales cycle is longer. So I find it interesting that you find the same thing for your education and training business. So you mentioned the AI, so it's definitely fast development. Any moment we are looking at this thing. So how does it impact the education and the training itself?
We are actually in the space of education. Um, I think if you look at schools, colleges, and universities, and um, doesn't matter where. I think schools are pretty slow reacting to real world challenges, and that's the reason why we exist. And I think it's going to see a lot of changes in school as well, because today my two kids they sometimes ask me the question, how come the life skills that we need so badly are not taught in school,
Mm.
not taught in high school, not taught in universities? And we see students, um, computer science majors, and they graduate, they cannot code, right? And now you see AI is doing that for them, and it's even um, if it's even more frustrating to see when the fresh new grads and they come out of school and they cannot find work to do. So as parents, we feel a little challenge as well, seeing our own children, they're searching for direction. My two kids, they're in gaming industry, so both of them,
Oh.
yeah, both of them went to Sheridan. One majored in game design and the other one animation. But even for them, it's pretty hard to find. My daughter just is graduating April this year, and she really wants to move to California. She's interviewing, but a lot less opportunities. So I think that posed a question to a lot of students and parents, what kind of direction we can give them. sometimes we feel like we cannot give them any direction. We know less about the world and changes of the world than they do. But I think there are two things are still really important. It doesn't matter how advanced AI will develop in the foreseeable future. I think one of them is curiosity, and the other one is creativity. And I think small kids, they have both. But if we're not careful, um, if our education system is not capable of, maintaining those two, and a lot of times you see um, the way we deliver, knowledge to students, we actually kill them. We kill both. We kill curiosity. We kill creativity. I think these two are really hard to replace by the machine. I still believe, humans working with AI with machine is the best combination.
Yeah, it's a lot of unknown with the development of AI. So one thing is that in terms of the teaching itself, do you think you can use AI to replace teachers?
Not completely. I think there are two things we teach. First is just pure content, right? And second is to help students develop skills. So content absorption. Now, I think it's really hard to make students to read books because text is not enough. And even I think the other speaker Rick mentioned podcasts. And if you convert the same content into audio, I think the retention will be higher. If you turn this into a picture, or even moving picture like a video, um, the retention can be as high as 80%. So it's interesting what we are experimenting, with AI, and we subscribe to some of the services. Now we have text to speech and text to image and text to video. Maybe it's not good enough for movies industry, but it is good enough for education. A lot of times you see a talking head, maybe facial expressions and a little bit of hand motions. That's very easy to replace. You can get a AI avatar, and it's very, very realistic. So just recently, we received this inquiry and from a big company in Saudi Arabia. It's from the HR department. So they want us to co-develop some training programs to onboard new employees using AI avatar. And they think it's going to reduce costs, it's going to maintain or even improve the quality, and also reduce the production time. Can you imagine? We can get videos made without camera, but it's entirely possible now.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Yeah, actually, I'm also exploring the different media, right, to supplement the book. As you said, some people they are very comfortable to absorb information through the book, right? But some they prefer more media rich. So that's the reason I did the video-based course, even live course. Even I will try combinations later this year.
I think it's entirely possible to convert like your book chapter by chapter to PowerPoint slides, and you can place like yourself, but not real you, your digital twin, to keep the lecture. And it's even better, you can convert the whole thing into a video.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I just did an experiment using the CapCut, using their digital avatar function. I think the picture, the movement seems okay. However, the voice was really flat. So I think if you listen to that, probably it's too boring. So, but I'm sure the newer version, different other tools, so probably there's some powerful ones. That's the reason I'm exploring that. So yeah, if anyone wants to explore that with me together, yeah, I have a
Absolutely.
special running on my website, right? So for the course is right now it's promotion. You pay one price, you get two people together to learn this. So yeah, Eric, I want to confirm that you mentioned that you are focusing more on the B2B corporate training, but are you still doing the B2C, the individual training as well?
We convert the live bootcamp to self-paced videos. So
Okay.
it's all video-based. Yes, we still take students, uh, but it becomes self-paced. They can control how fast and how slowly they go. But we put very strong support from the TA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So if anyone in the audience, you have a need in terms of data science, machine learning, so whether at the individual level or at your corporate level, so where they should go, Eric, to find find contact?
They could go straight to wecloudData.com, WECLOUDDATA.com.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could contact me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Does anyone have any question for Eric? I'm also checking the chat, so it seems there's a few chat I haven't got a chance to look at.
Yeah, Frank, I have a question.
Hi, Niranjan, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Eric, thank you so much. It was nice listening to you. I've been a student of vCloud Data,
Oh,
so I appreciate.
amazing.
I've been in the consumer finance industry since 2007, and it took a while for me to understand various different aspects. One of the things Frank Tian's book gave me is appreciation of how the credit life cycle works in the at the at the basic level. However, I saw there are three different things that we look at, right? One is the decision science, which give you prescriptive analytics, exploration of the data, and you take the prescriptions, you apply your credit knowledge, and you basically come up with your credit strategies. And after that, there is another part which is completely different, which Rich probably would appreciate because GDS linked us that experience a different version of Experian, Power Curve, Strategy Manager, all of those are even tried, everything, right? So that is another part of implementation. In your the way you put your courses together, I see a lot of machine learning and AI is there. But do you have any ideas about how can we link these three so that somebody like me who gets the end-to-end appreciation of how the full credit lifecycle works?
I think these are the things we really want to improve. Working with industry experts like Frank and Rick. So we put a state-of-the-art technology, and we work with industry experts, and we create new use cases. So when I say use cases, it's not just like a business school case study. So it's a case study with lots of data. So we have a clear deliverable outcome at the very end. So these things, we can use them to simulate, a real scenario or context in the real business world with a very clear defined industry problem. And at the very end, we solve it. And the students can get a really strong industry grade hands-on learning. So these are the things. To answer your question, broadly speaking, we work with industry experts. So every course or track comes with hands-on project. And some of the projects are portfolio level. So you can use those projects to build a personal project portfolio. And even bigger projects, those are real projects, and we do through consulting. So those projects, you cannot share the content, but I think you can still convert a significant part of that into your resume and into maybe interview scripts, so you can use it to showcase your capabilities in that domain.
I see. Thank you, Eric.
My pleasure.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Eric. So wish you all the best with your business in the 2025.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Great. So next guest is Mr. Nadim Abdul. So Nadim, are you on the line right now? Okay. Hi.
Here I am, Frank. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
Great. So yeah, Nadim is also a big supporter for my content on LinkedIn. I also had the opportunity to appear on my Risky World interview. So Nadim is a former chief risk officer at Brim Financial and the Savvy Group. He's a founding principal at the Tala Consulting and owner of Dimsy Fitness. So obviously, Nadim has a career transition into several different worlds. So my question for him, the first one is from banking to fintech. Okay, so when you took the role at Brim Financial, the first role in the fintech world, what prompted you to make that jump?
Yeah, great question, Frank. First of all, I've become Dutch on your. I have put two A's in my name, so it's Nadim. It's actually Nadim, so I just had to point that out quickly.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's my fault. I think when I registered, I did it wrong. But that aside, it was a great transition. For me, I'll just jump right into it because I know we don't have a lot of time. At the time, I had left Equifax for about a year. I had my consulting business going, and that's how I met the principal at the time, Rasha, who was looking to launch a fintech. Having had a career of probably 20 years or so in banking then, and I had worked mostly for most of the banks, some of the smaller ones, larger ones, and there was always this desire to do things a bit differently. The banks wanted to kind of be faster to market on their strategies and what have you, but it was always took a long time. Like even when I was with Equifax, it would take a bank 2 years to transition a score migration or something like that, right? Small things, but it was their systems, right? So long story short, that was a big attraction to me to actually get into the fintech space where the platform, everything is different, as you know, and there's no legacy systems. Everything's driven through APIs. You can integrate with third parties fairly easily. You have testing environments. The data adoption is great. So to me, the desire was always that, and this was an opportunity to do that. So, and everything was from scratch, as you know, so it was a pure startup initiative at the time. So to me, it was very attractive to do that. And the nice thing is we could do it. So all the stuff that I had dreamt, both as a consultant from the Equifax days where I was promoting solutions to being an actual user of those solutions, now I could actually do them and be able to deliver on them. So that to me was one of the biggest attractions, Frank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. And working as the chief risk officer at a fintech company, what was the biggest obstacle?
The biggest obstacle, well, you have to do everything, right? In a fintech, there's limited resources, obviously, and risk is a driver. I mean, you have marketing and product. Obviously, you got to sell something, and you gotta carve the way. But you got to do it responsibly, especially when you're doing credit card issuing, right? So, the biggest obstacles I think was, well, there's a lot of pressure for funding. First of all, one of them worked, the other one didn't. So I put it that way. So funding is always there. Even as a risk manager and looking after the platforms, you still have responsibility to make sure, or try and see how the funding is coming, even though you don't always have disclosure to that, but that's important. So there's always that struggle. Resources are a bit of a struggle, so you have to do a lot of the stuff yourself, which is actually very exciting as well, because you can't hire 3 analysts to do this and that and everything. You pretty much have one hire to get, so you got to make sure that whoever you pick complements you. So you end up learning a lot doing more, but again, that's pretty exciting too. So those are things where what I'm getting at is you have to be agile and you have to be adaptable. Just like what you're building, you have to be like that yourself. All the principles, and Rich talked about them, and Eric talked about them. The principles haven't changed that much, really, because the 4 or 5 C's are the same. As I'm not going to reiterate that, but how you approach them is different. And there's a lot of evolution. I'll give you just one quick example from when I launched Brim to when we launched Savvy, which never made it to market. Just simple things like IDV, identity verification. IDV did not exist when Brim was launched, only 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it was. So you always have to be able to adapt. You always have to say, okay, so I need to do this properly. I've always done it in a certain way, but now there could be a better way of doing it. So you have to be able to adjust. And how do you do that with the technology that you have, with the infrastructure, with customer obviously being at the central point, because that is the most important thing in fintech, is customer centricity and how you deliver to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Then after Brim and Savvy, so maybe all around the same time, you start your fitness business. Could you tell us how did that idea originate in the first place?
Yeah, that's a passion project I've always had. So during COVID, I think those who saw our longer interview would know the more details about that. But during COVID, like I was between contracts, didn't know what to do. I was going the wrong way, putting on weight, not doing proper exercising and all of that. And I've always kind of worked out, been in sports all my life, so I like to be active. So I had some time on my hands, and I said, you know what? I've always wanted to become a personal trainer. So I talked to some of my buddies, and they said, just do it through CanFit Pro. So I signed up for it. Long story short, I did it in a short period of time. I passed it, did the whole thing, and then it changed my whole life in terms of, it made me more physically fit, doing things more properly. Physical and mental to me go hand in hand. I've also done some coaching before, so I was able to bring the two together. So the idea was, you know what? Let me see if I can do something with this. Can I go to corporations, kind of promote them to get people back into the office by offering fitness maybe differently. So I tried different avenues. I thought about opening a gym. Long story short, what I realized is, yeah, I could do all that, but I don't want to do all that because this is it is a passion for me. And I have a couple of clients, small clients here and there, 2 small groups and 4 individuals, which I enjoy. But I want to do it more to help people from that perspective. I don't want to make it a living, so to speak, if you know what I mean. So I still, prefer to be I like to engage this as well as my physical. So I do a bit of both. But to me, it was going to be a transition, and I wasn't sure where I was going to go. And I love doing it. I'm glad I did it. And it's more of helping my family, my friends, and people who are interested versus just going large scale on that, if that makes sense.
Okay. Great. And last time I wanted to ask you this, we ran out of time. So Dimsy. So
yes.
The name of your fitness business, what's the story behind this name?
Usually I flex and I show you Dimsy because I have it tattooed on my bicep, but I have long sleeve shirts on, so I'm not going to do that. Dimsy is my nickname. It came about probably 15 years ago or so. It's a campfire story. We were sitting around. My nephew actually kind of stuck me with it, and it's stuck ever since. So it's my name. It's my trade name. So everything I do is Dimsy. My license plate on my car has Dimsy. This Dimsy and Dimsy 2. Then I have my tattoo on me. I'm Dimsy Fitness as a result of that. So everything I do, it's me. So people know me as Dimsy. In my neighborhood, when I walk my dog, everybody else says, hey, it's Dimsy, because I always have my Dimsy Fitness stuff on, right? So it's my nickname. That's what I go with, so feel free to call me Dimsy. I won't get insulted. Actually, I would enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. So talking about coach, right? Personal coach. Talk about AI. So what's the benefit of having a personal coach?
Well, from a personal training perspective, you mean?
Yeah.
It's very important because, we all go to the gym, or some of us go to the gym, and when I go, sometimes I cringe. So I'm lucky I have my own home gym and I work out at home. I have everything here, right? But when I go to the gyms, because I like to do that every once in a while, it's about form, showing people how to do things properly, how to do things age appropriate. Some of us are in our 50s now, or more, 60s. And, working out is great. You still need to do the strength, like working out, resistance training. You have to do the cardio, the flexibility, but you got to do it differently, right? So, in my respect, unless you're a weightlifter, and that's a different story, obviously, for the average person, you got to do things differently. Like when you're older, you do more functional movements. You want to be able to squat, for example, without hurting yourself. You want to be able to grip something without having to fall and hit your head. You want to prevent fall prevention is what it's all about when you get older. But how do you still do it where as you lose muscle, because we naturally do as we grow up, how do you do it in a sustainable way? So a personal trainer will show you, first of all, when it comes to technique, all the exercises you should be doing, how much recovery time you should be getting. One of my biggest problems before I became a trainer was recovery. I would not recover enough, so I was injuring myself everywhere, and that takes forever to do that. So they show you how to do it right. They motivate you, because when you go alone, sometimes it's like, yeah, I'll go once, I go twice, and then you never go again, right? So it's about accountability, motivation, making you feel guilty if you don't go. But really, it's coaching as well, like showing you the whole benefits you're getting out of it. Because to me, it's not like, okay, everybody does the same thing. Every client does something different based on what they like to do, and then based on what they should be doing based on their age and their surroundings, right? If they have any conditions, for example, any medical conditions, we have to be aware of that, advise them. So, it's expensive sometimes, I agree, but at least get, like, my recommendation, get a personal trainer. It doesn't have to be me, anybody you can relate to. Do it for at least a month or two until you know what you're doing properly, and then you can do it yourself, and then keep getting them every once in a while. It's very important for them to see how you're doing it and that they're doing it healthily and in a sustainable way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very important to have someone with experience to be right there, right, and talk to you and give you feedback. So would we say that the personal coach, whether for fitness or even for financial consulting, so this is the type of work that will be least impacted by AI?
Everything gets impacted by AI. And you have to accept that. I mean, especially like we've talked already about our businesses. I think I love Eric's approach because that's so relevant, right? Like it's about adapting and being agile, right? That's what it's all about. And I saw it with the fintechs, especially the last one I launched. The last one we built, which never launched. I keep saying that, but it was, again, there was a lot of younger people with new ideas, and they understood technology better than we did. We used AI to help us. I mean, AI doesn't eliminate jobs. It's just because you still need, as Eric said again, you still need the how-to, right? All the mechanics. Yeah, of course you have AI. Like, if you're doing something now, you want to start a paper. If you're not using Chat GPT, you're an idiot. I'm sorry, but why would you not use it to get started? And then you take and you learn, right? Like, you're saving yourself 50, 60% of time, and then put your thought where it should be. Put it on, okay, does this make sense? How do I put this? Like, how do I want to add to it? So to me, AI is going to help you in everything you do, no matter what it is, right? It takes kind of these menial tasks out of things, and then you can deploy those skills somewhere else. So a lot of people feel threatened by it, and then I can understand why. But I think there's an opportunity to say, okay, now that I understand that these elements are going to be done for me, what can I do on top of it, and how can I make it better, more sustainable? So to me, in everything you do, coaching, personal training, like I used to create these programs in personal training. Like it would take me half an hour to an hour for each client. Like it's just a waste of time, man. Now I just put in the variables through an app, and it just gives me something. It looks better. It's way more iterative. You can actually add to it, and then you have AI on top of that that gives you the results. So why not use something like that? It's just you're saving time. Time is money, right? So you actually pay a little bit, and you get much more out of it. So absolutely, I think AI has to be leveraged at anything you do, any profession you talk about. It's relevant, and I use it as much as I can for sure.
Oh, okay, great. I really like the perspective you share, right? So how we can embrace AI, right, to improve our well-being and productivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So back to the personal health and exercise. So for people like sitting at the at desk for a long time, is there any simple techniques so you can teach us to exercise while we are just not stepping out, for half an hour, just sitting right here or standing right here around the table?
Just stand up for one thing. I'm just kidding. Like a lot of something. It's very simple. First of all, like sitting a lot is terrible for everything, for your lower lumbar, for your back. Everything hurts after a while. You get up, like I sound like an old man sometimes. Like, where did that come from? Because I've been sitting for like 3 hours. So what I have now is these adjustable desks. So that's one thing. Have an adjustable desk. You're standing more. You're moving around. I mean, depending what kind of work you do. I mean, if you're an analyst, you're always typing and that. I understand how you need to be sitting. So instead of sitting, maybe invest in a, and they're not that expensive. You can go to Costco anywhere, and like for a couple of $100, you can get something decent. But that's one start. And there's a lot of stretching, chair yoga, chair exercise, depending how active you are. Just a simple thing of when you're sitting, like sit straight back, put one leg on your knee and just stretch out your knees. So things of that motion. Stretching is very important because there's a lot of tension on your back right now. When you're sitting, always make sure your core is engaged. So suck in your stomach, is what I mean. and not to the point where you can't breathe. But this way, what that does is you get more support, because it's very important that when you get more support, your back is kind of pushed a bit more back, so you're not hunching back. You look at your kids, right? All our kids, guys. You sit there, like it's the hunchback generation.
Mm.
Their phones. So when I see it, drives me crazy when I see my kids. Like I'm a personal trainer as your dad. What the hell are you doing sitting like that, right? But they all do it, right? They're on their phones. So encourage behavior for us as well that you're not doing that. Less sitting if possible. If you have to sit, I get it. Get up every 20 minutes, even for 5 minutes. Just walk around. If you have a call, walk around when you're doing that call. Try and move. You got to move. Every person should be doing at least 30 minutes of moving every day, and that's either fast walk. If you have a dog, go for a nice long walk. If you don't have a dog, just make it a point in the morning and the afternoon. If you like to run, go for a jog. If not, do some HIIT exercises, high intensity or low intensity, where you do things for 20 minutes. You do something for 40 seconds and you rest for 20 seconds, and you keep doing it over and over. It's all about elevating your heart rate. Once your heart rate is up, everything starts to go better, right? Because it pumps, cleaner blood into your system, and then you just feel better. It's all about that. It's all about circulation, really, at the end of the day. So try and move as much as possible. You need to exercise. I have to say, if you can do it 3 times a week, do it. You have to incorporate strength training. You have to incorporate flexibility and cardio, all 3. You can't do one over the other. And guys, you got to work your legs as well, not just the upper body. And vice versa for the women is what I find, right? Like so it's got to be total body, but do it in a moderate way. If you have 20 minutes, you can do a full workout in 20 minutes. If you have an hour, you can definitely do a better one then. So make it a priority, schedule it, and then that will help you. Trust me, it will definitely help you, because we all sit a lot, and when I sit a lot, it's terrible. I hate it. So I'm always moving. Like, I'm doing 20,000, 23,000 steps every day.
Wow.
Break 10,000 every day. You have to get to 10,000. No excuses, right? Like, you have to find a way to do it. Now, if you can't, obviously, because you have some kind of impairment, find another way to elevate your heart rate by doing something that you are capable of doing. But you got to move. You got to move every day.
Yeah. Keep moving. Okay.
Keep moving.
Yeah.
Moving up.
Great. So, any question from the audience for Nadim? Okay. So Nadim, so if people have any question, whether it's fintech or fitness, how they can reach you?
There's different ways. I'm on LinkedIn, as you all know. So Nadim Abdo on LinkedIn. I think where you've posted my email here. I have my personal email is nadim.t.abdo 1a at gmail.com, and then there's deemsy.fitness@gmail.com. I also have, for the personal stuff, I do have a website which I launched a couple of years ago. It's Deemsy Fitness, so you can look it up there. So different ways depending what you want. And this is I've reached the perfect stage of my life where I like to do everything. It's even though I am looking for something a bit more permanent for the next little while, being mentally challenged is important for all of us, right? So I am looking to do a bit more of that, and I have been doing more consulting work, which is pretty cool. But I like to do everything. It's funny because even an old buddy of mine, he just called me up the other day, and I did it pro bono. I gave him a whole plan to get him back in shape, right? We did the whole, his whole BMR. We did what he should be eating, how he should be exercising. So even if you want to talk about that, I'm happy to help you. So reach out in anything that you have.
Okay, great. So from financial health to fitness health, so both are very important. So you can always find Nadim. Okay. No. Thank you, Nadim, for your time.
Thank you, Frank. Take care, man.
Yeah, take care.
All right.
So great. And I see Kaib has joined. Welcome. Zalam, you have joined. Welcome. So yeah, if anybody out there, I didn't monitor the other social media. They had issue to hear the guest. I think the quickest way is to jump into the Zoom. Okay. Great. So next we'll have our number 4 guest, Mr. Jeff Shows. Okay, so Jeff, so do you want to turn on your camera?
Hey,
do. Jeff.
How are you?
Good.
You know what? I was better before Nadim was talking because I had to put my donut down. I feel so sluggish now.
Okay, you're allowed once in a while, Jeff. That's fine.
Yeah.
That was wonderful, actually. That was wonderful.
Great. A quick intro. So Jeff is my biggest cheerleader on LinkedIn. Okay. Thank you, Jeff, for the support. Jeff is the president of FinTech Card LLC. He's also the head of US sales for TGS Cards USA and Topar Security. Okay, Jeff. So where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining from sunny Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. Great,
It's always
great.
sunny in Philadelphia.
Only feels sunny. Okay, great. So I'm looking outside. So Toronto is also a little bit sunny. We just had a 1 week of really, really big snow. So 5-6 inches. Great. So Jeff works in the card manufacturing and the fulfillment industry. So maybe tell us a little bit about your word. So what does the term even mean?
So, okay, so I've been in this industry for years, and I think since plastic was invented, and so what I am involved in is actually I am one of those people who is involved in the actual card manufacturing and daily fulfillment of cards. So effectively, if Frank wants to order a card, get a credit card or gets a debit card, and you're approved for all that. Effectively, what happens is a whole lot of things happen behind. I know Nadim certainly knows it with Brim and with everything that goes on before that. But it all starts with Frank wanting to get that card, and there's a whole lot of things that get involved at that point. Files are produced from the processor. Well, once the bank approves you, the files are produced, and then what has to happen is that juncture. Those files are sent to a card fulfillment facility, basically one that actually personalizes the cards. They put your pan on it, do the chip. We put the CVV, all those type of things. And basically what we do is in the industry, and I'll use names in the industry who do these things. Ademia, which used to be called Oberthur, G&D, Valid, CPI, Perfect, companies like that. And I've worked with so many of these as well as been consulting in the industry for this. So, effectively what happens is a card program, let's say Brim, for example, as Nadim was talking about, he has a wonderful idea about getting a card design. Well, that design needs to be approved internally, then it needs to be shared with the card manufacturer so proofs can be made and go back and forth with the client to verify whether things look good, do exactly what they want to get done. Once everything is approved by the client, then it needs to get approved by Visa or MasterCard. The entire program has to be involved. And then in parallel, what happens is all the development and all the programming has to get done for the card personalization. So what that means is the scripts have to be developed with the personalization facility and the processor, and Visa or MasterCard, or whether it be MasterCard or Amex or Discover, depending upon the specific profile, debit profile or credit profile, and everything that has to go on behind the scenes to get that done. Nobody thinks about this, but it tends to get boring. It tends to be very drawn out. But it's once it's all done, everybody gets happy. Nobody thinks about the designs that people want to put on the card carrier. Nobody thinks about the envelopes. Nobody thinks about what materials you want to use. Do you want to use a metal card? Do you want to be plastic? Do you want to do recycled? A million things that you need to think about and discuss with your suppliers. So that's where we're at. I've been, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. Worked with the largest banks to the smallest startups, fintechs, and it's been a joy to be doing this all my life. Well, not all my life, but for the last 30 years.
Okay. Great to know there are different steps, right? Details. So as you mentioned, behind the scenes. So before you even receive that in your hands. So from the very beginning to the final delivery of the card, usually how long that process takes?
Well, that really depends on the client. It's not on us. So if in the perfect world, honestly, manufacturing of a card, depending upon capacities and, at the facility. I mean, in the real world with nothing else, it could take anywhere from 2 weeks to, you know, 4 weeks if there was nothing else to be done. There are no other jobs ahead of it and before it or whatever. Um, but in reality, what happens is there's so many steps that get involved. So you're talking, if you want to launch a program, there's so many entities that have to be involved. It could take 9 months. I always tell people right out of the gate, if you think it's going to take however long you think it's going to take, add another 3 months at least. So, and I really, try to set expectations with my clients to understand it's all the entities, all the divergent entities have to come together and agree on things before development can get done.
Yeah, always give yourself ahead of time, right? For example, if you want to issue cars in 2026, it's not too early to talk to Jeff right now. So
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay, so is there a minimum budget to launch a card program?
So yeah, well, sure. It again, it depends on the volume. If you're talking about 1,000 cards, if you're talking about 1,000,000 cards, there's a difference, obviously, in the scalability of that. If you're a fintech, for example, wanting to launch a program, you have to bear in the cost. At least in my world, you need to bear in the cost of the materials, the cards itself. Again, you need to decide what kind of cards you're going to be doing, what kind of materials you're going to use. You need to determine about the collateral material, and how that's what you need on that. You need to determine really on the development what that's going to happen. So at a bare minimum, I would probably venture to say, $40,000 to $60,000. You have to just put out there a lot of it is development, right? So that's a lot of that, and that's from the fintech side. I would venture to say, I mean, it could be brought down, but depending upon the capacity, depending upon the number of cards you're talking about, could affect the price. It could affect the overall price of this.
Yeah.
So that's
okay. I think there's a question for you in the chat.
So is there anything, so Nirjan is asking, is there anything with respect to the regulation that impacts the card design and printing process? That's a great question. So yes, it depends upon, so as far, okay, let me just make sure I read that properly, because I want to make sure I'm saying the right idea. So regulation, the only regulations that really count in card production is from PCI, which is Plastic Card Industry, or Visa and MasterCard, American Express. And so as far as printing is concerned, most cards are being printed in lithography, litho, or silk screen, the vast majority. There are a number of companies that do digital print, like off of your printer, which is quick and easy, not necessarily the best quality, and they don't really stay together. They peel apart a lot. But from a regulatory perspective, you have to determine, you have to abide by the rules that Visa and MasterCard really put out there. There are cards that, interesting things you can use. Here's a card here, for example, that has, I don't know if you can see that, it has a cutout. So a lot of that is actually for vision disabled people, so they can reach in their card and say, "There's my debit card." They can feel the edge of that. You can use all different type of materials, foils. You have to be careful with foils too, because sometimes the contactless element doesn't work because the antenna is blocked by foils. But you can use iridescent colors. You can even color the edges of the if you can see that, I'm not sure if you can see that,
Mhm.
but you can use color core. You can actually color the edges in certain different functions. There's a lot of, you can put tactile feeling on the top of it, but that's that's such a great question that he asked, and we would address it with people. But I think most everything is available to clients. It shouldn't be anything off the table when it comes to designs.
Okay, definitely a lot of choices out there. Okay, great. So in the last 4 or 5 years, yeah, we have been through a turbulent time, the COVID. I read that this has caused a certain interruption for any industry using chips. So I wonder what has happened in the world of the card manufacturing. Was that impacted a big time?
A lot. Yeah, a lot. So in 2021, there was as we all know, there was a chip shortage. Not necessarily just in cards itself, I mean, everywhere. And what happened was the largest FIs out there and the largest processors, the Fiservs, the FISs of the world, they went out to the entire industry and said, oh, we need chips. We can't run out of chips, because if you don't issue a card after a card's expired, there are penalties that Visa and MasterCard enforce. Of course, I'm sure they could have a conversation about that because of COVID, but what happened was the largest players flooded the industry and bought as much material as possible, chips from everybody. It wasn't just the people who they were contracted with, but they flooded the industry and bought as many chips and inventoried them for a very long time. We also had struggles with PVC, believe it or not, and overlays. Just there were materials that couldn't be shipped from abroad. There was a facility down in Texas that actually burned down. So it's very interesting. Things have gotten better. Now, what happened with all those orders? So starting in about late 2021 through, I want to say, mid 2023, there was just an enormous amount of orders in the industry. It wasn't just one manufacturer. It was just every single manufacturer had just tremendous amount of orders. It was incredible. Lead times went from 4 weeks to 12 weeks, for card manufacturing, and it was just astonishing. And all of a sudden, late 2023, it was as if somebody hit the brakes and said, yeah, we have enough cards, we don't need anything. So many banks just stopped because they didn't ever want to be caught short by not having chips and not having cards or chips. Now, mind you, these chips also do have expirations by Visa, MasterCard, but you can get variances on these to extend those chips. So that wasn't an issue. So the industry as a whole, through the end of 2023, through all of 2024, suffered dramatically with very little ordering. It's beginning to start creeping back up at this point, which is wonderful. We're all happy about that. So it's been an interesting ride. So as I said, doing this for 30 years, and there are roller coasters, just like any industry. But I've seen so many peaks and valleys in this industry for card production, for card pricing, for card delivery, and we're just going through these again. And you just sit back and go, yeah, been there, done that. We've seen it. So we're all trying to do our best to satisfy the market.
Yeah. So looking back, would we be better off if at that time we should maybe ration the supplies for chips instead of letting the big ones they're holding that for a while?
So it's interesting to say that, because so a lot of the manufacturers went to the chip manufacturers, right? Infineon, ST, folks like that, and said, we need to take as many chips as you can buy, as you can supply. So this is like in 2022. And they got into very large contracts and very large orders, right? And so they just started bringing in as many chips as they could possibly. And like I said, the end of 2023, it just tanked. So a lot of manufacturers right now are still sitting on a tremendous amount of inventory, and they're just waiting for orders to come in. So I think I just answered your question. I'm not sure if I answered your question. Say that again. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just wonder if there was a better way for the industry to work together to yeah.
Well,
go
yeah,
to
there's a
that.
better way if the big boys didn't, flex their muscles, right? So
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so one more question, Jeff. So the credit card definitely has made a strong comeback. In the second half of the pandemic, and still going. So to many surprise that but again the credit card has never the plastic has not died as many predicted a while ago. So what's the reason behind that?
yeah, well, let's not push that. Really, give me a few more years until plastic dies, right? Just give me a couple more years. So that is, we talked about this. We've talked about this, and it's a very interesting question. So I assist a buddy of mine who's an adjunct professor at Seton Hall University. He teaches finance and economics, and he'll have me sit in on a couple of classes and give a lecture to his students. And I think it was last year we had a conversation. Now, mind you, I'm meeting with kids who are what, 18 to 21, 19 to 21, whatever it is, right? And I presented to them. I presented a topic which is called "What is FinTech?" And I started it from the very beginning. Like, does anybody know, right? And who thinks FinTech is started yesterday, right? And people would say, "Oh, it happened with this time." And I would start the conversation going, "Yeah, FinTech started with the telegraph, because that was when you were actually able to move money back and forth." That's where I start FinTech, quite frankly. So, but one of the topics that I touch on in these classes and talk to these people and talk to these kids, and we're talking like 50 kids in a couple of classes that we're talking. Here I am, certainly older than them and boomerish. I'm thinking these kids are just using their phones all the time, just tapping and doing everything. And I gotta say, almost every single one of them disagreed. And they said, "No, we never use our phones to pay for things. We use our cards." And I just sat there with my mouth agape. I'm going, seriously? So they have no desire. This is the most technologically advanced generation, ever, right? And like Nadim was saying, they're like at this, look at, they don't want to use that. These kids said, "No, we want to have the security of being able to use, they want to be able to use their card to say, okay, we're going to tap on here and let's, and just know that they have the security of that, instead of having to open up their phone, turn on NFC and make sure you choose which card to a T." So plastic isn't dead yet. It's like that old Monty Python script. "I'm not dead yet." But but there certainly will be an expiration date. I don't know if you saw in the news recently, MasterCard put out a memorandum that said they want to remove, by 2030, they want to remove the PAN, the personal account number, from a card. Kind of like the Apple Card right now. And they want to force you to use your phone. And you know what? There's still a huge amount of the population, Frank, who will not want to use their phone. There are a lot of subprime and subprime people do not want to use, they want to use their card, a debit card or a prepaid card. They don't want to use their phone. There are people who just don't want to be recognized by a phone and don't want to have anything to do with that. So, I think that the news of the death of plastic is not going to happen for many years. I just think there's too much of an audience that will not move to a cell phone yet.
Yeah, you have to give consumers choices, right? Instead of
that's just it.
forcing
You have to
on,
listen to the consumers. You can't just shove things down their throat. You have to listen to them.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, one question for you from Kai. So what's the checklist required by Visa, Mastercard before approaching them?
Well, how much time do you have?
maybe give you a 30-second answer. So
I'll just say this: you need to speak with your Visa or MasterCard rep, and they'll be able to provide you everything. There are so many things. It has to so much of that, and I'm talking about starting a business, starting a fintech. There's so much that you need to, monetarily, you need to commit to, and you need to send them everything. When it comes to an actual card, they're basically looking to see if the program is right. They don't really, they want to make sure the Visa logo or MasterCard logo is prominent. You can't print over it. You can't do anything like that. So from a design perspective, there are minimal rules, but from a startup position, my strong suggestion would be to have a conversation with the Visa and MasterCard reps.
yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for your answer, Jeff. And also thank you for your time today to share the inside world of the card manufacturing and fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Okay.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Okay, great. So originally Mr. Naeem Sticky will join us, but he had a schedule change in the last minute. Okay, so I think this concludes our guest speaking part. And sorry, let me quickly see. We still have quite a few people online. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for joining, Matt. So yeah, maybe I'll just open up to everyone here. Is there any follow-up question to the conversation we just had, or you have any special question for me? So feel free to ask.
Frank, I do have a question. Oh, there's somebody there.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No. So I'm just looking for the subprime do not want to use their phone. They want to use their interesting. Yes. So to answer that question, that is from what I gather in the industry, much of the subprime industry, the folks who are using their cards want to use a piece of plastic. They don't want to use their phones. It is interesting, I know. So I can't address that anymore, but that is what I found. That is what the industry has found.
No, okay. Yeah, this remind me of seeing in the movies, right? So the people use the flip phone, so instead of the smartphone, because they don't want to be tracked. So
yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to back up what Jeff said, I mean, when we in both cases, Brim and Savvy, right? It's like you said you don't need those cards. It's expensive, right? It's not cheap getting those cards, and then if you like Jeff showed you, they can get so many options, man. And then what if you get into metal cards and that? Like, don't even open that kind of bar of worms, right? But you still need it. We thought, just do it virtual, issue in, you can use your card immediately. Like, no matter how you sell it, there's a big population. And I think older, younger, and subprime, for some reason, Jeff, you're right. They just want to have, I think they feel like their identity is not there for whatever reason, right? Even though a compromise is a compromise, as we all know, they don't feel that. There's a perception behind it, right? So I think the physical is always going to be there. And then you try and distinguish it as much as possible, right? Like, the design, man, like the number of hours we spent on that, like shoot me in the head. Holy shit. Excuse my French. It's crazy. But that's how it is.
And it's so funny you said that, because when I've had so many clients, fintechs say, I want to start up in 60 days. And I just hold myself. You know what I'm saying? And I just hold myself. I say, okay, let's walk you through this. And I literally put together, a whole checklist of the myriad of things that they have to walk through. And that, some of the biggest things, of course, have to do with compliance, right? And
before they get the license, it's all compliance. Like I said, before you even get to these discussions, you have, a good, 18, 24-month runway.
Yeah, exactly. And then they think, oh, how long does it take to make a card? You put a blank piece of paper, plastic in one end, it comes up. Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that.
No. And I get it, right? It's reputational risk for the associations, right? So I get it, but again, I think that process could be improved. I think any issuer or acquirer would agree that those processes haven't evolved, right, in the last like 50 years, so they need to evolve as well. It's like
Yeah.
the stuff we had to input and the way we had to input it, not a knock on them, but like, come on, give me a break, man. Like, what year are we in? It's crazy, right?
No, I don't disagree, but I will say, like you saw at Brim,
Yeah.
somebody asked me how long is it going to take to get my cards. I say, okay, it will take 4 to 6 weeks after Visa proof approval.
Yeah.
Anything prior to that, that's on you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're going to take 8 months fighting about a design internally, not my problem.
Yeah. You gotta set the expectations up front, and it's a process, right? Like anything else, and it has. I mean, there's a reason for it, right? I mean, for all kinds of reasons, and it's got to be done right. But yeah, you got to give it time.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say was, Frank, thanks for again, like plug-in for you, but we really like. I love getting your posts, right? We're all very busy, and then these summaries that you send us, you especially now what's happening could potentially happen. I love getting them. I'm sure everybody else does too, but it's a nice summary. It's quick. I don't have to look at a million different sources. And the book, again, good luck with this, man. Thank you for sending it. I started, as you can see. So I will go through it. But thanks again, buddy. We appreciate this.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, Ian, because you know what, I'm just a knuckle dragging salesman. I don't know anything about credit, and I see what Frank is posting on there, and I'm just, that's really intriguing. I love your post, Frank. Thank you so much for all this.
Oh, thank you for your support, gentlemen. Yeah, it's my way to make the consumption of information a bit easier. It's interesting that when I first started to get in touch with internet, right? That's mid '90s in China. So when I apply for universities, right? Apply for the graduation program, I had to go to a lab because I didn't have a computer at home. So go to a lab. So the very first thing I do is I go to the settings. I turn off all the pictures. So no display for pictures because I was charged by minute. So every minute cost me money. So that's how slow the internet was at that time, right? So, but at that time, I think people were hungry for information. What's on the other side of the internet, right? So what is outside of China, for example? But fast forward, so almost 30 years right now. But when I talk to people still has that urgency, that hungry about information. So I find that's a little ironic because we have so much more information, so readily available in different media, video, text, audio, whatever. But I think what's challenging is how do you digest all of this information. Yeah, so I'm glad I'm doing just my part that to whoever I see we are writing down this road together, and if there's any information you can take to make your journey easier, so that's my pleasure.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. I also have a couple of special messages, shout outs. First is for Mr. Greg Laughlin. Greg, I know you are on, so I don't know if you want to open your camera. So Greg just took a position of VP Portfolio Management and Analytics for student choice, student loan lender. So Greg is also a long-term supporter for my content, my book, my course, my newsletter. So I want to say special congratulations on your new role, Greg. Okay. Another message, this is for Mr. Luis de Nicola. Okay, Luis is not here today. So he's another reader, from, again, my book, my content. So Luis is specialized in the B2C finance and the B2B SaaS writer. Okay, so he's a writer. If your company needs any writing writing content, right? So to promote, build authority of your business. So for example, his clients include the Experian Business Insider. So yeah, definitely you can find him on LinkedIn. I'm happy to make an introduction, Luis de Nicola. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Is there any other questions here? Hi, Jer. Yeah, the new version is still not available on Amazon. Yeah, that's right. So it's under review by Amazon. So it takes 1 to 3 days. So my hope is they finish their review this weekend. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Niranjan. Yeah.
I have a question. I see some very good thoughts and I enjoyed this discussion. The only thing I wanted to ask is, what is your take up about cryptocurrency? Uh, I know there are a lot of utilities out there, but if you think of it as a currency like a Bitcoin, uh, where do you think it is taking the credit life cycle? Is there any impact from the crypto side?
Yeah, that's a huge topic, cryptocurrency. So it's interesting. It's making comeback, especially with the new administration in the U.S. I think we are into a different phase, right? So there are the way I say it, there are three types for cryptocurrencies. One is the native one. The native cryptocurrency is think of Bitcoin, right? So all the other meme coin. So I think only the Bitcoin, the original, the very first cryptocurrency is staying because that's a first mover advantage, right? So and also you have Ethereum, so who you use that to build an ecosystem, so that survive. All the other ones, I just don't see them making a huge impact. For example, Mr. Trump, he has his own coin. Well, it's for his supporters, but not necessarily has financial impact. Then the second category is really the stable coin, right? So which is gaining popularity since last year. So the question is, how do you make sure it's stable? You need to have reserves. Okay, so but who is there to make sure your reserves are there, right? And they are not being stolen by someone overnight. Then the question is, then should that be basically a regulated institution, right? Unless you are regulated, nobody knows what's going on. Even you are regulated, still something could go wrong. Yeah, so I think that's the next biggest question on the stable coin. If that's that safety is solved, yes, there are use cases in terms of the money transfer. You can do lending, right? So security lending is just another form of money, right? So then the third category is the CDBC, the central bank digital currency, which in the Western countries, people have a lot of questions regarding the privacy. So that's probably not going to fly, right? Especially in the US. But in some other countries, if they want to do an experiment, so that could be happening. So as a way to reduce the cash usage. It's still a very new and developing world in terms of cryptocurrency. But I'm as interested as you to watch how this is continue to unfold in the next 4 years at least. Okay.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, talking about the cryptocurrency, the crypto lending is one thing I'm watching. There's a few other developments in the industry. So I might do some webinars later in the year. So I did I did a few with Greg, with Louis, with Rich last year on different topics. I think I might do that again, given the developments in the industry. So I see that again, the book is more on something that do not change, right? So they are staying there for a while, but we have new developments. So for example, the buy now pay later, the earned wage access, so crypto lending, the neobank. So what's going on with that, right? So banking as a service. So I'm going to produce some contents around that. But yeah, please stay tuned. So maybe there's another idea for another book. Okay. Yeah.
Right, fraud could be one big topic because I see, especially when I work with Caribbean portfolios, and we're digitizing more and more, the fraud becomes a very hot topic, and I think it's taking over the world. So that
The
would be a
fraud.
really good addition.
The fraud? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
fraud, first party, third party fraud.
Yeah. Especially with the fast movement of money, right? So the the fast payment is another big topic. So in the US, yeah, there's the Fed now. There's a right-time payment (RTP). The adoption just get started, right? It's more for business, but there are some cases for consumer use as well. Canada is doing something similar. So with the fast moving money, but there will be fast moving fraud. So you can see that Zelle already got into a lot of trouble in the recent years. So the actually the CEO for early warning system, so he's a Canadian from former executive from BMO, Cam Fowler. So we'll see how that develops, and yeah, a lot of things going on in terms of the fast payment. Yeah. Okay. So if no more question, I think I'm going to just wrap up here. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Again, the book is not on Amazon yet, so just be patient for a couple of days. So it should be there. So I will also keep everyone updated through my social media accounts. Again, so it looks like this. Okay. And if you have a chance to read it, yeah, please write honest review. So on Amazon or wherever you purchase the book, it should help it to reach more audience. If you want to put some comments online, I will also appreciate that. Okay, I think we're almost 1 o'clock. So thank you again for staying with us for the last, I think, over almost 2 hours.
That's good.
Yeah, I wish you all the best in 2025. Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Frank.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Okay, have a great weekend.
Take
Okay.
care.
Bye.